John Lunn, you've been the composer of Downton Abbey for many, many years. The show just wrapped up. Reflecting back on it now, talk a bit about the impact of the show and about your role in it as composer in helping make it what it was.
Oh gosh,
It's a heavy order.
Well, I'd worked for Gareth Neame. He was one of the executive producers. I'd done quite a few shows with him for the BBC, like Little Dorrit and Bleak House, that were costume dramas, and I'd done quite a modern score for them, and I think he quite liked that. And when it came to Downton Abbey, I enjoyed working with Gareth. We had a good rapport in terms of talking about music and what the music should do for a show. So it was very easy to say yes, but I had no idea it was going to be so big, because most of the costume dramas I'd done previously had all been based on books. Everybody knew the story. We knew how it was going to start, how it was going to end. The thing that was different about Downton Abbey was that nobody really knew the story. I mean, the story was kind of sort of made up by Julian as we kind of there was a plan, obviously, but by and large a lot of it was made up as we went along. And so I think when we got to the end of series 1 was very big in Britain when it was first aired, but it wasn't really till it got aired in America that we sort of realized that we were onto something much bigger. And then by the end of series 2, I think we suddenly realized the enormity of what we produced. But everything, we were all just doing things to the best of our ability, just trying to make something as good as possible. We had no idea it was going to be so massive.
How would you say that your work has grown over the years? Take us back to the beginning, what your initial ideas for the score were, and then how they developed over the years.
Well, I think before I'd even seen anything at all, I'd read the script. In fact, I'm not even sure if I'd read the script, but it was there was the only thing that had been talked about was the West Wing. For some reason, there was a kind of sort of idea that we were building something. So when I first thought it was going to be much more political in many ways, and that there was going to be a bigger. There was going to be much more conflict between upstairs and downstairs. I thought, but actually, then when I saw it, I realised that wasn't really the case, and actually, the music I've written doesn't really differentiate between whether it's a servant or a lord. They're human beings; they have the same emotions, and so I've given, I haven't treated anybody differently in any. The music's very, very democratic.
Mm-hmm. Much like the show is, really.
Yeah, it is like the show. I mean, I think that's definitely been one of its strengths, is that to show that people that despite it's difficult to that kind of level of servant master law, but kind of in many ways people were very sort of were very dependent on each other, and I think the show is very good at doing that. And so in many ways the music's really about love, actually, kind of really sort of focusing on that.
Mm-hmm. As you said before, you've done a lot of period-centric shows. Looking at your credits, you seem to be kind of like the go-to guy when somebody needs music for like things like Little Dorrit or The White Queen, which got you some Emmy nominations.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, I mean, this one is different in that it's not a literary adaptation. You guys, it's an original thing. Yeah. So how did you approach the music historically in that sense?
Well, I didn't. I mean, I just ignored it. I kind of it's not really my job to conjure up. No, it's, the series one started in 1912, and it's not really my job to make us feel as if we're in 1912. My job is much more about storytelling. It's about what's going on inside people's heads. And the music of that period, I mean, some fantastic music, and I didn't ignore it. I did listen to, classic English composers of that period, Vaughan Williams, Elgar, Delius, and I knew them quite well already. But I haven't ignored it, but I just didn't think that the music's too overwrought, to work on an underscore level. It needed to be sort of simpler, but also, be able to be, music needs to be manipulated very easily and very quickly in Downton. It's very, very carefully choreographed underneath the dialogue. We've never used the same cue twice.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Every single cue has been rewritten and re-recorded. Obviously, some themes have lasted all the way through each 6 series, but the manipulation and the timing of how those themes work, we've always re-recorded it again.
That's really interesting. I mean, in terms of the way that television is produced, oftentimes you just develop your themes in the first season, and then you kind of manipulate them or change them a little bit as they go along. But basically, they're more or less the same kind of thing, season for season. Yeah. So then, I mean, from series to series, are you just looking at the arc of the season itself in terms of how you write music?
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously each series in a way has kind of got a key theme to it. I mean, for instance, season 4, after Matthew had died, that was all about the rehabilitation of Mary, kind of in that whole series. So I did have to come up with, some new themes for her. There were some, so she had some suitors who kind of came into the fray, and didn't really last and didn't survive. But I had to kind of, at least we kind of knew that they weren't going to, but I had to kind of make the audience think that they were all going to be possible. And and then in series 6 is kind of about Edith in a way. So and Edith, who's been pretty much dealt with unfairly for a whole 6 series, it kind of ends up being quite happy. So they're always, and then in series 2, for instance, when Matthew and Mary start off separate, but I knew, but at the time we got to the Christmas special in the end of series 2, that they were going to be together. And so all the way through working on that series, I'm kind of thinking about how I'm going to deal with the fact that they're finally going to be together, and musically that's going to be a big moment. So I'm sort of always thinking ahead about what are going to be the big musical moments and how I'm going to deal with it. And sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night panicking and then anyway, it's been a joy to work on, I have to say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when it came to scoring the finale, the big series finale, talk about the experience of doing that, what your thoughts were musically. And
yeah, well, it was quite an event because we recorded it at Abbey Road, and we kind of did this sort of live video feed of it as well to kind of make it and some of the cast came, which is actually incredibly unusual for any recording session. And it was a culmination of you know, some of there were some new things in that series but basically it was, you know, a lot of the themes that had been established, even from series one, kind of, you know, came to, you know, just kind of came to an end. It was it was quite a cathartic experience, actually.
Mm-hmm. So for your work on this show, you've won 2 Emmy Awards, I think in the second and the third series.
Yeah.
You also got an additional nomination for the show and 2 other nominations for The White Queen and Little Dorrit.
Yeah.
We're right back in the middle of Emmy season again. So um, as a composer, you know, what does that kind of recognition mean for you in your work?
Oh, it's huge. You know, the Emmys kind of like I mean, certainly for television, you know, it's the top award, and so, you know, to have won it already twice, you know, 2 times in a row. Yeah, it's, you know, it's massive. You know, I'm not going to move to America to work. I'm going to stay here in Britain. I mean, television's just sort of exploded here in Europe. There's so many, you know, in fact, it's just not just Europe. It's just sort of all over the world. But you know, there's tons of work here. So, but so you know, it does have a big say here. You know, it's just a really nice thing to do. You know, will it change my life if I win it again? Probably not. But you know.
But it's always nice, yeah.
It's always, I mean, in many ways, what's really funny about awards, I think, is it's brilliant to get nominated because you know, the focus is such a great thing. And then then when you get to the ceremony, the only thing worth doing is winning. They're really strange. But then the following day, if you haven't won, it's fine. But that moment, you know, it's such a bizarre. It's a really bizarre experience. But anyway, I've got to really like LA now, whereas before I was a bit sort of, you know, I thought it was a bit of a weird place.
Well, you spend enough time somewhere, you know.
Yeah, so that's one good thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, I hope to see you at this year's Emmys. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your work on Downton Abbey, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me. You're welcome.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, take care, mate. All right.
You too. Have a great day.
And you. Bye.
Bye.